The real purpose of life. What the Buddha actually taught. You can have everything: a great job, a loving family, expensive vacations, and endless praise from society. But then, on some quiet evening when all the noise has settled down, a question echoes in your mind. What am I really living for? It's not because you're sad. It's not because you lack anything. It's because deep inside you, there's a part that remains unfilled. This isn't a modern problem. It's the same question that drove a prince 500 years ago to abandon his palace and discover something that would change how humanity understands the purpose of existence. That prince became the Buddha, and what he found wasn't what 99% of people think it was. Today, we'll explore why the pursuit of happiness, the thing our entire society is built around, might actually be the very thing keeping us from finding what we're truly looking for. The happiness trap. From childhood, we're taught that life's goal is happiness. Study hard to get rewards. Work diligently to get promoted. Make money to buy freedom. Love and be loved to feel valuable. Our entire society operates on one shared belief. Happiness is something that must be achieved. But there's a paradox that few dare to look at directly. The more we try to find happiness, the more elusive it becomes. Modern psychology calls this the paradox of happiness. The more we focus on being happy, the more likely we are to feel like failures when things don't go our way. A new car only brings joy for a few weeks. A dream vacation eventually ends. Today's success becomes tomorrow's burden. In 2011, psychologist Iris Mouse at UC Berkeley made a shocking discovery. In her research, people who valued happiness most and actively pursued it ended up being more miserable. She asked one group to watch a funny movie, but told them beforehand that the goal is to feel as happy as possible. The result? They felt worse than the group who simply watched the movie without any pressure. This explains why countries with the right to pursue happiness have the world's highest rates of depression. Why Silicon Valley, where people have everything they want, has become the capital of anxiety and burnout. We've fundamentally misunderstood the nature of happiness. But someone saw this truth 500 years ago, and his story begins in a golden palace where he had everything a human could dream of. The prince who had everything. Siddhartha Gautama was born into the most luxurious palace in the kingdom of Kapilavastu. His father was a king, his mother a queen. He had everything: wealth, power, a beautiful wife, intelligent children, and every pleasure a prince could have. According to legend, Siddhartha's father built 3 separate palaces for his son, one for winter, one for summer, one for the rainy season. He was raised in a perfect world, never allowed to witness any suffering. But at age 29, something strange happened. Despite having everything, Siddhartha began to feel a deep emptiness. He wondered, if this is all life can offer, why do I still feel incomplete? One day, he decided to leave the palace to explore the world outside. And he witnessed 4 sights that would change his life forever. An old person weakened by age, a sick person, a corpse, and a monk with a peaceful face. For the first time in his life, he realized that everything he loved, beauty, health, even life itself, was temporary. Nothing lasts forever. And this realization led him to a bold decision. He left the palace, left his wife and child, left all his wealth to search for an answer to the question, if everything is temporary and painful, is there any way to escape this cycle? After 6 years of ascetic practice, He sat down under a Bodhi tree and vowed not to get up until he found the answer. And in that night, he achieved the enlightenment we call Buddha. What he discovered not only changed his life, but provided a scientific formula for understanding the nature of suffering. But here's what's remarkable. His insight wasn't about gaining something new. It was about losing something that had been weighing him down his entire life. The Four Noble Truths, a scientific diagnosis. After his enlightenment, the Buddha summarized what he learned into four simple but profound truths. The Four Noble Truths. Think of them as a medical diagnosis for the human condition. The first noble truth. Suffering exists. This sounds pessimistic, but it's actually very practical. The Buddha wasn't saying life is only suffering. He was saying that suffering is an unavoidable part of existence. Birth is suffering, aging is suffering, sickness is suffering, death is suffering. Even good things bring suffering because they will end. Like a doctor, the first step to curing a disease is acknowledging the disease exists. The second noble truth. The cause of suffering. This is the revolutionary part. The Buddha said suffering doesn't come from external circumstances, but from tanha, craving, clinging. We suffer not because we don't have what we want, but because we want things to be different from what they are. There are three types of craving: craving for pleasure, craving for existence, wanting to become someone, and craving for non-existence, wanting to escape reality. The third noble truth. Suffering can end. This is the good news. If the cause of suffering is craving, then when we end craving, suffering also ends. This state is called nirvana, not a place, but a state of complete peace. The fourth noble truth. The path to end suffering. The Buddha didn't just give a diagnosis, he provided the medicine, the Noble Eightfold Path, 8 specific steps to gradually free the mind from suffering. What's miraculous is that these truths can be completely verified by modern science. Neuroplasticity shows we can change brain structure through meditation. Cognitive behavioral therapy is based on similar principles. Change how you think to change how you feel. But how do we apply these ancient principles to our modern lives? That's where the Eightfold Path becomes surprisingly practical. Living with purpose, not for joy, but for awakening. The Buddha didn't say life would no longer have difficulties. He said, you can live without being controlled by suffering. Like standing in the middle of a storm, but your mind remains steady as a mountain. Like walking through a cold winter, but keeping a warm flame alive in your heart. This doesn't come from accumulating more. It comes from letting go. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means no longer placing burdens on every moment of life. This must make me happy. This person must satisfy me. Life must go according to my wishes. Letting go is accepting that. Sometimes there's joy, sometimes sadness, sometimes we have, sometimes we lose, sometimes we love, sometimes we part. And in that acceptance, a space opens up, where we no longer live to avoid suffering and seek joy, but live to see clearly each moment as miraculous. The Eightfold Path isn't about becoming a monk or retreating to a cave. It's about living ethically, mindfully, and wisely in whatever circumstances you find yourself. Whether you're a teacher, engineer, artist, or parent, you can integrate these principles into your daily life. Right view means seeing life as it really is, not through the lens of ego and desire. Right intention means cultivating thoughts of goodwill and non-attachment. Right speech means speaking truthfully and kindly. Right action means living ethically. Right livelihood means earning a living without causing harm. Right effort means balanced persistence in mental cultivation. Right mindfulness means present moment awareness. Right concentration means developing focused, calm states of mind. These aren't rigid rules, but flexible guidelines that support each other. When you practice one, you naturally develop the others. But there's one destination that's widely misunderstood, and that misunderstanding keeps people from ever starting the journey. Nirvana, not what you think. When most people hear the word nirvana, they imagine some magical place, like heaven in Christianity, a place you go after death where everything is perfect and you'll be happy forever. That's the biggest misunderstanding. Nirvana in Sanskrit literally means blowing out, like blowing out a candle. But what's blown out isn't you, but the fires of greed, hatred and delusion that have been burning in your mind. Imagine you've been carrying a heavy backpack your entire life. Inside are stones named worry, anger, jealousy, fear. Nirvana is the moment you put the backpack down and realize you never needed to carry it. It's not a feeling of euphoria or ecstasy. It's a deep quietude, a freedom from the need to feel anything specific, like finally finding a quiet place to sit after a long, noisy day. Harvard neuroscientist Sarah Lazar has proven that long-term meditators have actual changes in brain structure. Brain regions associated with stress and anxiety shrink, while regions associated with compassion and awareness grow. This means nirvana isn't a supernatural state. It's a natural human capacity, the capacity to live without being pulled around by every desire and fear. And here's the beautiful thing. You don't need to achieve complete nirvana to benefit. Every time you practice mindfulness, every time you let go of a bit of clinging, you taste a little of that freedom. The real purpose, inner freedom. Imagine a bucket with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much water you pour in, it leaks out. Modern life is like that bucket. We pour in love, money, fame, knowledge, experiences, but still feel empty. That hole is craving and ignorance. And the path the Buddha showed isn't about pouring more in, but about fixing the bucket. When the bucket no longer has holes, even a little water is enough to refresh us. When the mind is no longer torn apart by desires, a simple meal, a hug, a rainy day is enough to feel complete. That's inner freedom, not depending on external conditions to feel at peace. And that is the real purpose of life. It's not about achieving something out there. It's about discovering what's been here all along, hidden beneath layers of wanting and running and grasping. It's about finding that the happiness you've been seeking your entire life was never missing. It was just obscured by the very act of seeking it. Conclusion: the paradox of happiness. We began with the story of lottery winners who weren't happier than ordinary people. Now we understand why. Happiness is like sleep. The more you try to sleep, the more awake you become. The more you try to be happy, the more miserable you get. That's the paradox of happiness. It only comes when we stop hunting for it. Viktor Frankl, a psychologist who survived Nazi concentration camps, wrote, "Happiness cannot be pursued directly. It must happen as a consequence of doing something meaningful." The Buddha understood this too, 500 years ago. When we stop chasing happiness and instead focus on understanding and ending suffering, something miraculous happens. True happiness, not the temporary happiness from getting something, but a deep peace, begins to bloom naturally. It's not the happiness of having, but the happiness of letting go. Not the happiness of becoming, but the happiness of being. Not the happiness of adding to life, but the happiness of realizing that what you've been looking for has been inside you all along. The purpose of life isn't to accumulate moments of happiness. The purpose is to understand the nature of suffering, and in that understanding, find the path to freedom. That's the highest purpose a human being can pursue, not because it's easy, but because it's truly achievable. And when you begin this journey, you'll discover that the happiness you've been seeking your entire life was never far away. It was always here, waiting for you to stop chasing it long enough to find it.